Good day, everybody, and welcome to Soul Talk. And this is Meet the Author series, where I have the privilege of interviewing and chatting with the co-authors in my book, Voices of Hope. And I feel very privileged and honoured to be in this position. But today, we've got an amazing guest with us. We have Indira Kennedy, who likes to be a little bit of gorgeous all over. So let's get right down to it and hear from Indira herself. Hi, Indira.
Hi, how are you, Brenda?
I am great, thank you very much. So tell us just a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and just give us a little hint and a little flavour of who you are.
Well, obviously from the accent, I'm Australian, but I've been living here for more than 4 years in Britain and loving it. So well and truly settled. For many years, as far back as 2004, I've been working around the topic of conscious leadership and how we can use our own development, our own personal development, spiritual development to really make the workplace a better place to be. And on the other hand, of course, a real preference for helping women to be all they can be. And so that has led me to be part of your book and wanting to talk about my own journey as a mum and a woman in business, really, and how I've set myself up to be that and supported myself through that.
And that, you know, that's very inspiring in itself, you know, when we find that courage to take that step and to venture, you know, outside the comfort zone, as we all say. I think I quite like the comfort bubble, you know, the little bubble where we feel we're in our own little world, but actually we realise that if we just poke through, there's an even bigger, brighter, better world waiting for us. So the book's called Voices of Hope, and for me, as a woman in business and just as a human being and as another woman, I am really passionate about women and finding their voice and then facing whatever that brings up, which is their truth, and then having that courage to use the lessons that they find and use it to better themselves, others in the world. So tell us a wee bit about how you managed to find your voice and face the truth and what that meant for you.
Oh, gosh. There's been probably a couple of incidences in my life that I talk about actually in my chapter in Voices of Hope. And without giving too much away.
That's right. We're not giving anything away today.
Well, the reality is, I think, that we go through, well, I've certainly found that I've gone through a few iterations, and that usually comes from some kind of growth spurt that could be pushed upon me because of life changing, family situations changing, relationships changing, jobs changing. You know, there's always something there, children being born, and then an inner drive to be more, an inner drive realizing that there's greater capacity within me, and that usually comes from a longing. I really take notice of when I have a deep longing for something, and if it won't leave me alone, it's not just a mood for a couple of days or even a couple of months, that it's not leaving me alone, and I can feel that there's something in my own heart that is wanting to emerge and pushing me forward, and people that, you know, synchronicities start to happen. Yeah. I'm really listening and watching for those messages because that is the truth for me. And over time, I've really learned that my own values, what really truly matters to me, is my truth. And when I'm coaching and running training programs and so forth, workshops for executives and leadership, I talk about that as, you know, your values are actually your messages from your soul. I think they're the closest we can get without being in deep meditation, in a sense, to what is it that we are really and should be taking notice of, and what are we really? Who are we really? And that's a neat way to actually get in touch with that if we just revisit what really matters to me here. What are the top 6 priorities for me?
Yeah.
And that will usually show up in the way that life is challenging us at the time anyway.
Mm.
It'll be a
Yeah,
challenge.
there's so much power in what you said in there. There's so many amazing points that if this was a different interview, I would definitely want to take you down and explore absolutely further. So namely things like the inner drive, so that, from my background, that intrinsic motivation, but I love inner drive. I talk about drive a lot myself. It's about you are really in tune and intuitive and very open to listen and looking for the synchronicities. A great way of being connected to our higher self and the greater power and source of the universe. And that is huge. But facing that truth and knowing that that is the truth, that's key, because a lot of people aren't there yet. When you speak to them, you realize that they don't always listen to the inner drive. They make excuses and they keep themselves down. So facing your truth and honouring who you are, and that's what the Voices of Hope is about. It's honouring that truth and giving hope to others and permission that they can do the same. And you alluded a little bit to why you wanted to be part of the family and Voices of Hope. Do you want to expand a wee bit on that, and what opportunities you feel that will have for you as a person and a woman in business, and as a woman in business, because that's important to me. It's about using your story to help create a business, because that's where we have the biggest ripple effect.
First part of that is I wanted to be part of it because it's an opportunity to talk about these deeper issues and these more slightly more esoteric things, I guess, but they are things that I know women absolutely are aware of, and yes, at different levels, and maybe some more so than others, but it's a really common theme for me over 20, 30 years of working with personal development with people, is that women know there is more, and it's a difficult conversation to have. The workplace doesn't support that very well, and I do everything I can to bridge that gap. In my work, I feel that's part of my mission as well. And I had to do it for myself, to even have the courage to say, well, it actually isn't going to be a full-time income through a salary. I'm going to go out and set up my own business, because that will give me the other things in my life that are really important to me, and especially as being a single mum, wanting to be there as much as possible for my children, and just having to manage that. Like, how do I set my life up, including earning an income, and still honour who I am, who I need and want to be as well. So Voices of Hope says to me, overall, I think it's going to be a singular message, in that it is be who you are, and the world and the universe, the world will support that. So the book itself, in terms of the second part of what you were saying, is the opportunity is really more about seeing how I can be part of a group with a similar voice, and how I can also be part of a group of women who as a stronghold can do even more, because there's 5 of us, and you're bringing people together, women together. This isn't the first book. You've already got one. I know you've got another planned. So it's more about community now. And I think as we become more high-tech, more robotic as well in the next 10 years, watch this space, it's really more about how do we hold on to and maintain and still develop our own humanity. So we need each other for that. It will help my business. I'm sure it's going to be a great business card.
Absolutely.
And I would rather that than a business card in many ways. But it's an opportunity to have a background story that doesn't need to be told all that frequently. It's a way to find out more about who we are as women, and then see how is that translating into the world, and what are we doing through our businesses, and what's that awesome essence of us that we're bringing through.
Yeah, and one of the things is, for me as the anthologist and bringing and speaking to every single person and knowing them on a personal level, is that you quickly see the similarities in us as women, but you also see the uniqueness in us as well. And for me, it's having conversations, and it's speaking with the women about how do you shine brighter and bigger, so you show up and you step up and you speak up for your truth, what you believe in, and your purpose here, why we're here, and what you're called to do, because we're all called to do something and share our genius. And the thing is, it's like everything, there's all different parts of us that we need to nurture and nourish. So we all have something unique, and we all deliver it in our unique way. And so for me, in Voices of Hope, one of the reasons that I brought women in business together, because I know with speaking to women, they all want exactly what you said, living life on their terms, bringing up their families, earning money on their terms, being financially independent, having financial freedom. They want all of that. And why not? Because they'll do a better job and they'll serve better, because they're filling up their own love cup. And it's like the oxygen mask, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. And as women, we find that difficult. But you and the rest of the women in the book have learned to put on your own oxygen mask first, and that's what's inspiring. That it's okay to put your own oxygen mask on first. It's okay to love yourself first. It's okay, and that's the hope that you're giving to other people, and that you can be everything you want when you find that courage and you find the little flicker of light, and then it's ignited, and you just fan the flames, so to speak. So that's brilliant. So tell us about your business.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, the business is, as I said, leadership, and it's from the perspective of a more conscious approach to who I am, self-awareness that I need, but also at a much deeper level, the question of who am I, and the answer is I am. So very deep spiritual perspective for me. So there's a lot of what I bring into my work comes from an Eastern tradition, mostly around what we would call yoga, because I've lived that for 30 years plus. And that's what's really supported me, and it's what I've been able to draw on. So a lot of my work will involve things like the 8 elements, where it's what are the practices that you need to lead yourself. And they are things like, are you reflecting and contemplating? How are you looking after your energy? Are you setting strong intentions at the start to know what it is you're really aiming for? And so on. So there's 8 of them, and it includes meditation as well. Journaling. Are you really reflecting enough that you sit and you learn, you take the essence of the rasa of what it is that you've experienced and use that in your work? So there's that level. There's really 3 levels for my work. It's how am I, from a conscious perspective, how am I with others as a leader, and how am I fostering that in the people I lead? So more awareness as a team and in the work that we're doing together. And then the 3rd level is a global consciousness. What is this business being used to do for a greater good? And actually, I was speaking in Manchester last week on exactly that with Conscious Leadership Social up there. And it's easier, I think, to work out what am I working on and how am I working if we think in those 3 ways. So that sounds very broad for the business, and I guess it is. The essential tool really for me, and the essential process, is how are we all being as individuals, our uniqueness, bringing the power of that to the workplace and bringing that together so that we're an incredibly powerful group of people, whether that's a team, whether that's the whole organisation. Someone asked a great question the other day on LinkedIn, actually, about how do we get to be our unique selves and still work together on a theme, you know, on a cause. And I thought that's essentially what I teach, is how you can actually be your own individual, powerful, unique, brilliant self and allow everyone else to do the same. We all have the same power running through us. You know, if you're standing on the beach looking at the sun, we'll all have different experiences of that. And some of us will get sunburnt faster than others, and others will be really relishing it, or, you know, there'll be others completely covered. But it's the same energy that's
Exactly.
going in and through us. So that's the consciousness part for me. I love to tap into that and help people find that, because when they do, the energy that's released and the relief that comes with that and the ability to move forward and get excited about life is phenomenal. And it happens in an instant.
Well, I mean, and I love your analogy of the sun, because the sun is all life-giving, you see? So yeah, I use an analogy of the sun myself to explain why we're divine, but it's just phenomenal. So you in your business, you do public speaking. Do you run workshops and things like that? What else do you do?
Yeah, I do. There's excuse me. There's a variety of things in approaching it. I love to speak and talk about the topic. So as a thought leader in the field, I mean, I have worked in leadership and conscious leadership now for nearly 20 years, but also the work that I've done on myself really from a young child. This started way back in my early teens for me. I think I was just born with the drive to find out what is life, what is this all about. And so I speak. I'll do public speaking effectively, run workshops and seminars for public groups, but then inside the organisation's corporate work, definitely about running workshops that are then helping leaders find that self within them and how to apply it in the workplace so that they can elevate the workplace. They can bring a greater energy.
I love that word. I love that word, elevate. And when I was listening to what you were saying about the 3 levels, you know, self and others and the world, and what you were saying, for me, it's also you were equally describing, if we shift the lens, I talk about shifting the lens a lot. So if we shift the lens a little, we're equally talking about emotional intelligence, that self-awareness, awareness of self, awareness of others, and awareness of how we all fit together. In terms of interdependence. And that answers a wee bit of what you asked the question, how do we be our unique self but working in a group? So interdependence aspect of emotional intelligence explains that you come and be the best you can be, proactive in your field. And I know you do Roger Hamilton's work, which I've done a little bit myself, and he talks a lot about that as well. So you come in your fullness, and when we all come in our fullness and proactive, what brings us together is the one common goal. So that's the vision, you know, and we're going into 2020. So this is a time to be thinking, what's your 2020, what's your vision for 2020? And 2020 vision is clarity, and that's my thing. So do you know what? We're all doing similar things, but we're all coming from amazing perspectives. And that's what I love. And that's what you see in Voices of Hope and how we go about creating our business. So you're already a published author.
Yeah.
And so what do you feel and hope for more that being a published author will bring? You've touched on it already in Voices of Hope, but as an author per se, what does that do for you as a woman in business?
Oh, as a woman in business, excuse me. The first thing I thought of is, for me, writing is about legacy. I've had amazing teachers in my life who've given me a way to have pretty strong insights myself. So I feel there's a need to share what I've learned, but there's also a need to share what I think and believe as my truth and through my experience, because hopefully my story will also be inspiring to others, not only from what I've learned through my amazing teachers as well, Roger being one of them. But as a businesswoman, writing, I definitely positions you. There's no question at this time in our work life and where we are in the world, having a book definitely gives you more kudos and credibility. And I think it then makes you a go-to person, because there's a lot of people who are very, very shy about expressing themselves in this way publicly at all. And so there's, at least there's a raft of us who are happy to do that. I think I finally got over my nerves about speaking and writing and saying, this is what I think, because women are very shy about that. We're taught to be very careful. And in Britain, generally speaking, I had 2 really robust conversations about this week with some other business women. That's exactly what they experience here, is there's an unwillingness to say it as it is, speak what's really true and what needs to happen. And it tends to be seen as impolite or aggressive, more than assertive, or the right to give an opinion. And in this world of diversity and inclusion, there isn't room for that anymore.
No.
So please, Britain, get over the politeness part, because you can give diverse thought in a kind, caring way. You can give feedback in a strong way without attacking. There's ways to, that's the emotional intelligence part. But it doesn't mean that because you've had yet another meeting about it that you've actually achieved something. So I think anything where you can demonstrate the ability to speak your mind is a really valuable thing for a woman in business. And I would hope that every woman gets to the point where they feel confident and supported in that. The important thing is we need to support someone, even if we don't like what we're hearing. If we really mean this, I have to be willing to be present to that person saying what they think, or just sharing their opinion.
That's right. And I know you have to work hard and you have to work consistently on not taking things personally and being able to be objective to a discussion. And in leadership, that's what you're trained to do. And I know as a leader, when I was in education, that you had to have conversations and you had to speak about different areas, and people in that room, some would agree with you, some would not. And you could tell the ones who were emotionally intelligent, because they didn't get hot under the collar. They understood that it's someone else's opinion. You need to be tolerant, you need to respect it, you need to understand that we're different, and that it's okay for people to have a different opinion to you. Doesn't mean to say you don't need to like them because their opinion's different, but there is a lot of work needed in leadership. And I actually think leadership is just an absolute deep level personal development. That's what I see. It's a continuation of that journey. Because we're all leaders, because we all lead a life. So that's what I say, we're all leaders. Some are born to stand out and lead there, some lead from behind. So we don't all need to be like, so I don't mind being out in front. Equally, I don't mind leading from behind either. But some people don't want their voice, they're not that type of leader. So it's important to know what kind of leader you are. But leadership for me is just personal development, So so I say stories are a hit. They heal, they inspire, and they transform. We're constantly changing. Every moment of every day we're changing. Ourselves are changing inside, we don't see it. We're changing outside, we're changing in our mindset, we're changing spiritually. So how would you say you're transforming and how your story is unfolding like a beautiful rose?
How I'm personally transforming?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I think as I tell my story, I get to see the themes, and I get to see I get to see who I am and who I've become. And that's a really exciting thing as well, because it's also the foundation that I stand on. It is what happened in my life. It is what's built me as I am. But it also gives me the opportunity to choose whether I want to change that or not. And
Yes.
and not be I don't have to be a victim to that story, even if it's a great story. It doesn't, it's a classic thing if you don't have to be defined by your past.
Exactly.
However, it's honoring that and knowing that's what got me here today. And so the transformation is pulling all of the things out of the toolkit that I've built as a result of that inner resilience, that inner toolkit of resources, knowing that they're there, trusting that. I think my currently, whilst I undergo change as well, the self-trust is there because I have the tools. And even if it is get up and meditate in the morning, do my hatha yoga, keep that self-mastery up, because that's what builds my foundation. Reading the things that uplift and help make me question and give me answers. So hearing other people's stories, and I'm finding that more and more, that you're absolutely right, that they heal and they inspire and they transform. And that can happen in the space of listening to me giving a talk last week.
Exactly.
By interview for an hour and a half, So for me, yeah, the inspiration is being around those women who are prepared to tell those stories, and seeing that. Well, my hope for them is that that's the trampolining point, that's the bouncing off point to really blossom out into something even greater. It's, yes, we've got a story to tell. I'm not huge on adversity stories for that reason. I think to tell us the adversity story has a place, but not to be holding on to, I had to go through tough times to be the person that I am, because we can also have amazing times and a lot of love in our life and wonderful experiences, and that is also who we are, and we need to demonstrate that. So I'm very much into the positivity of life and the enjoyment of life and the passion and enthusiasm of life. So for me, it's how do we get that life energy moving, and let's focus on the picture that we want to add and add and add to as our brilliant painting of our lives. And that's what lifts, I can feel it now, that's what lifts my energy. And so I want that for me, and I want that for others. So I focus more on the positive side of things.
Yeah, and I've got to say, we're definitely soul sisters, because that's what I do. You see on social media, people putting posts out and it's all negative, transform. Yeah. And my posts will be a one-liner on negativity, and 99% will be positive. Now, that's not to negate that negativity doesn't exist and there's not the duality that we live in. Of course there is. But how I've lived my life, and I'm the uplifted, happy person, successful person that I am today, is because I did not focus on my negativity. I focused on what I need, who do I need to be to move me forward. Because when you continually replay the negativity, that's what keeps you stuck and takes longer to transform. It's not to say it doesn't pop up from the subconscious when you've got to relearn the lesson. It's about taking the lesson from it and moving on. And as a teacher, that's what I'm all about. What's the lesson? What's it teaching me? Who do I need to be to not allow that to define me? So although Voices of Courage was about finding courage and people coming from the adversity, but it was showing the positive side. Voices of Hope is even going a step further, because it's showing how all the co-authors, all the women are in business, and how they've used that not to define them as the victim, but to see them as the victor, and how they're ready, and the road ahead is expansive, they're funneling up, they're elevating. So it's like if you look at a big hill or a mountain and you're small at the bottom of it, and the path starts narrow, but the path widens and expands as you're elevated and you ascend. And that's what life is. Life's all about that enlightenment, that ascension, that expansion, and that's what Voices of Hope for me is about. And that's the way in which we've shaped those stories to show that to other people who are going to be inspired and take action. And that's what it's about. nothing's worth anything unless we take action.
No.
That's what I would say.
So can I just come in on that one?
Yeah.
I think, when I say about not dwelling on the adversity, it's more the challenge is there. There's no need to deny what the challenge was or the experience, because they can be pretty vile. It's not about pretending it was all okay, because it wasn't, and it can take quite a while for it to be okay before it gets really good again. But the important thing is not to dwell on it. And one of the things around neuropsychology really is that the mind becomes very rigid when we focus on negativity, because it builds fear, and then it can't see the way forward. When we stay very positive, it's a very flexible mind, and it can deal with change and opportunity, and also ambiguity. So there's some really good reasons from a neurological perspective as well to be doing this. And but we need the tools for that, because I know how if I wake up in a not great mood, and I still have to be ready for Brenda to do this, what do I do to get out of that? Oh, okay, this is it's a bit dark this morning, it's a little bit cool, and I could stay in bed a bit longer, but no, I've stayed in bed too late. Get myself up and going again. And the way that I did do that was I started to think, what's my intention for this? Why am I doing this? What do I want to have happen out of this? And I immediately thought of those 25 women that I'm part of, who are there as a group to really help uplift other women and men reading the books. As well as women reading men's books. And I think that's an important point too, Brenda. I think we women also have to get over the whole story about us potentially not getting everything we want because we're a woman. That is a really, really big
Indira, do you know what? We need to come back and do another soul talk, and definitely, because I love this, but I want to explore it. I just want to draw us to a close, and I want to do that by asking you what you're looking forward to most about the book launch on November the 23rd at the beautiful De Vere Beaumont Hotel in Windsor, a royal setting.
Well, it's not just a book launch, because knowing you do things in a really big way, and I know that you've got a whole day organised for the launch. It's not just a few drinks and a talk from the author. Nope. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how you do things, Brenda. But also, it's a massive celebration, and it's giving sufficient focus to the fact that there's more than one person involved with the book anyway. This is a huge joint effort, and you have done phenomenal things to bring it together. You've put a lot of your life into this as well. So I'm looking forward to being part of giving back to you too, to say thank you for doing this with us and for us, and hopefully be one of the bright and shiny faces that's alongside.
Absolutely, and for me, one, we should celebrate our achievements, and we should just celebrate life. We're alive and we're here making a difference. So that's why I like to do things in the way that Brenda does them, because it's given validation to something important. And I've lived my life small in a lot of ways, because I downsize everything. Oh no, that's nothing. So for example, being homeless with 4 children, I would say, oh, that's nothing. I would say it like that and move on, as if it was like I'm just going to pick some strawberries out my garden. Do you know what I mean? So I never I've gone through my life not recognizing and not always celebrating the big things, but the sort of superficial things. It's easy to celebrate them, like a birthday party and things. They're easy to celebrate, but actually celebrating becoming an author, the amount of courage that takes, the amount of effort and everything on everybody's part is huge. And of course, I do call myself the queen of collaboration, because I do love doing things together, because we can have a greater reach around the world. So that's why I'm going out there and bringing in other speakers, as well as all the co-authors speaking on stage, and so that we are inspired. Yes, we'll be inspired by each other, of course, but let's look at where we're heading in our businesses. So let's bring people in to show us what they've done, what they're doing in their business, so we can continue to aspire and move forward and upwards. So that's really why I'm doing it in the way that I'm doing it. So to make it really, really memorable, and just have fun, because we forget sometimes to have fun. And women, you know, there's a song, girls just want to have fun. There's a reason for that.
But you know, you can be serious and have fun. You can have serious fun, you know, like
absolutely.
The real reason why we can't be doing something that's really impactful. And
oh my goodness, Indira, I have been so caught up in our conversation, I forgot to do my little interjection. So let me just ask you 3 before I give you the last word. Okay, are you a queen or an empress?
Empress.
Okay. What's your favourite song?
Wow, that's well, actually, Georgia. I can't really tell you why. I think there's just something in there I love about the tone, but I come back to that a lot. Yeah.
Okay, a roller coaster or a big wheel?
That's a tricky one. I think probably a big wheel. I think I don't like the idea of being a hamster on a treadmill, but a roller coaster is a little bit too out of control. And I think with a wheel, there's at least some fairly regular momentum with it. So,
you know, so with the big wheel, you're up there, you've got the vision, you know, you've got the vision, you see everything, you know, and, you know, it's the momentum. So, Indira, what's your final parting word before we just sign off?
Just do it. You know, in the end, I don't think that there's anything, anyone that is really particularly stopping us from anything. We create a lot of our own obstacles through wondering what people will think, or is it okay? There's a lot of assumptions that we make that actually can't be borne out.
Not true. Not true.
I keep saying to my own daughters and others in my life, you know, people might have an opinion at the time about what they think about you, but 5 minutes later, they're not thinking about you.
That's right. They're thinking about themselves.
It is. So it's all about them. It's all about them. So
it's all about us, isn't it? We're all about ourselves, and
it's all about you. You know, it has to start. It has to start with us. No, I think the ultimate message is know that you're fine. It's know that you're a good person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Indira, we've had a great chat today. We've had it's a soul talk. We're talking from our soul. We talk our truth. We're not holding back. We're saying it as it is for us. And that, for me, is just divine. So with that, Indira, I can't wait to celebrate with you in November the 23rd. But before that, we've got the online summit on the week beginning the 28th of October through to the 1st of November, and you're speaking there too. So that's going to be great, because we're going to go more in depth about you as a woman in business rather than speak about you as an author. So if you're watching this, do come and join us. Go to Eventbrite and sign up and come, and it's free, and come and listen to some amazing, inspiring women who are doing what you're doing and more, and you will, I'm sure you'll be inspired by what we've got to say. So Indira, have a great day, whatever you're doing. Namaste.
Namaste to you, and thank you again, Brenda. Great work that you're doing.
Okay, thank you.